And we are back to the Man Camp Podcast, episode 4. And we have a very esteemed guest today, Mr. Demiso Arrington. What's up, man? Demiso, how you doing, man?
Hey, I'm good, brother. How are you?
Doing all right, doing all right. Demiso Arrington is the founder and lead certified firearms instructor of Rampart Tactical Defense Group LLC, based in Columbus, Georgia, and it was established in July 2020 at the height of the pandemic. Which, with an each one teach one mindset, Rampart Tactical operates off the following premise: providing firearm defense education, training, and instruction from novice to advanced skill levels. Our goal is to produce legally aware, lethally trained, and fully responsible defense-oriented firearm owners. He said lethally trained, huh? Lethally trained, huh? I feel you. I feel you. I feel you, man. And our topic for
Yes,
the night
sir.
was, like, yeah, like what's the point? What's the point of having a gun if you ain't gonna be lethally trained with it? But yeah. So our topic tonight is how should black men defend ourselves? And and the one thing that you brought up in our pre-show talk was that our Second Amendment right of having the right to defend ourselves, and doesn't have our Second Amendment right that it's not doesn't have a color on it, you know, and our Second Amendment right is to bear arms. So just so talk about that for a little bit, man.
All right. Well, I do appreciate y'all for having me on here first and foremost. Just be invited to a platform that we can get out uh, and share a little bit of information. I'm honored. Uh, I don't know if I'm that much esteemed yet. I'm that until I get a little bit more gray in my beard. But
Yeah, man.
outside of that, and just speak a little bit about history first. The reason why I feel, and many others like me feel, that blacks should actually, or Africans in America should be armed is just look at the history of black people in the United States of America. There have been several historical instances where being able to defend ourselves was a right that
Mm,
our captors had, that we were denied. And that kept us in certain situations, kept us in certain bondage type of situations until we started to make those progressions after Reconstruction. Now, let me fast forward because I don't want to get too deep into the weeds on
mm-hmm,
that. Maybe that's one day, that's a
mm-hmm.
book we can all sit down and write. But the let's fast forward. Gun in the United States kind of opens up with the Second Amendment, which gives everyone the right to bear arms, to form a militia, and you do have your right to protect your home and property, or yourself and property. The Second Amendment right itself was designed to protect from a tyrannical government. So that means if you are a citizen of the United States, color doesn't matter, race doesn't matter, culture doesn't matter. If you are a citizen of the United States, it is one of your rights afforded to you by the Constitution that you yourself against a tyrannical government should that government become so. Why does How does that affect black people? Well, in my opinion, and I don't want to get too long winded, but in my opinion, it affects us as black people or Africans in America. It affects us by virtue of we've always been on the defense in this country. Defense comes natural to us in this country. Uh, Moving into the 21st century, we do have certain instances where we have to figure out how we're going to better defend ourselves. But the core defense that we have is defense of our family, defense of our livelihoods, defense of others who may be in who are in need of such a defense. as a people, we're defensive minded. So it's only natural that we understand that we need to have the means, and we are afforded by the Constitution to have the means to defend ourselves and defend our families. The way that this climate is nowadays, I mean, we can watch and we can talk to different people in our comings and goings, and just by taking the temperature of that climate, uh, you would rather be an individual who is prepared to defend yourself than to be an individual who gets caught
Wow,
needing a
that's
defense
deep,
and no
man. I
one comes
mean,
to your defense.
honestly, man, I'm gonna represent the person that knows absolutely nothing about guns because honestly, I grew up in a household where guns were kind of like a taboo because my father was shot when I was about 4 years old. So my mother never had affinity for guns. She never let me have any like Nerf guns, anything like that. So it kind of I never grew up with the affinity for it. So my questions are really going to be kind of elementary, quote unquote, and I'm going to leave that to D Warren to to get into some some deep stuff that other advanced people with people who are more gun enthusiasts would know about. But my question is simple. Um, so with the police shootings nowadays, with the police shootings and how that goes into how people are dying and people are getting shot and by the police. How do you defend yourself against that? I mean, because Philando Castile, he said that he told the officer he had a illegal firearm in the car, and he still got shot. Like how do you stop that from happening?
Well, I guess the best way that I can answer that is to qualify a few things. First, being a licensed, legal, law-abiding or gun owner, uh, and being a black man in America, by you having uh, the right and by you being legally qualified to carry that firearm, it does not protect you from still being America. Uh, with that, we have a few other tools that we have to use as black men or Africans in America uh, before we situation that involves a firearm. And I say firearm because any escalation can be, or any style of weapon can be used as that firearm, whether it's lethal or it's a non-lethal or less lethal version of uh, uh, that type of tool. So we use different things. First thing that we need to learn uh, to defend ourselves, knowledge is our best defense. By saying that, we need to, even if we don't agree with gun rights or we don't have knowledge of guns, we need to get that knowledge. Even if we don't have firearms in our homes or we don't carry arms in our homes for various reasons, we still need to learn. And the reason, because maybe one day you'll be on that other side of the argument, or maybe one day you'll be in a situation where you'll understand that every time you hold a firearm, you're holding the power of life and death in your hands. So you have to be extremely responsible with that power. Lately, there are law enforcement individuals that have made the news, and there's also been a lot of uh, without calling it a mental issue. There have been a lot of individuals uh, who were mentally troubled or whatnot, and they use that in a very negative, very destructive way. And by destructive, I mean they've taken human life, unnecessarily taken human life. There's a knowledge that comes with firearms. There's also a responsibility that comes with it. The first responsibility, and I'll be the first to. I'm probably pretty well trained than the average individual with a firearm. John Wick or anything by that by that stretch of the imagination, but I understand what I have. Craft. I understand what I train, and I know how to move. But my biggest concealed weapon that I have on me every day is my knowledge of firearms, my respect for firearms, my respect for human life, and my ability to de-escalate. A lot of they learn how, but they never, or I shouldn't say never. Lately, they haven't been practicing de-escalation. So it's up to us to learn how to de-escalate. How do I do that? Well, first we need to understand the language of conflict, and then understand the language of conflict with law enforcement. When you're talking to law enforcement, there are a few key words that you just never say. Don't say gun. Well, actually, never say gun. You say firearm, right? Firearm. Firearm doesn't denote any type of threat to that police officer.
Gun.
But here's gun. What's the first thing they yell? Gun. What's the first thing they yell when they don't see a gun? Gun. So gun is a trigger word. No puns, but gun is a trigger word. Escalate a situation. So we speak clear, we speak concise, no rambling or anything like that. But we also make sure that our situational awareness is there to understand if that law enforcement individual is getting ready to take off, or if they're actually listening, or they're trying to do. I mean, you just have to pay attention to all of that stuff. But our strong would be a de-escalation. Officer, I am such and such. State your name, and you, officer, not in a submissive way, or the way that we've probably been taught growing up. Just comply, do what they say. I want you to get home. That's the goal. But you want to actually have a conversation with that police officer and be clear about what you're talking about. And also the other knowledge is knowing what you have to say and what you don't have to say. In many you're a concealed carry owner, or if you're in your car, by virtue of the castle doctrine, which I'll talk about here in a little bit. But if you're in your car and you in the car, you are not compelled. You don't have to let that law enforcement officer know that you have a firearm in the car. Conduct business as normal if you have it in the car. Then you can tell them that you either have it in the car, it's your choice. Like I normally do, is I let them know up front, certified firearms instructor, I am concealed carry licensed, legally concealed carry licensed. They'll ask if I have a firearm in the vehicle. I just refer back to my license. I am concealed carry license holder in the state of Georgia. And most of the time, like but I did get into a traffic stop not too long. And when the police officer got to the window, instead of handing him my license, I had my license in my hand. I had my proof of insurance and the registration in my hand, but I had my or my weapons carry license rather, on top of that stack, and I had a business card right behind it.
Mm-hmm.
And I handed him everything. He's like, I don't need that. Okay, well, I still wanted you to see it. That tells the police officer several things. One, I'm legally
Mm-hmm.
authorized to carry a firearm, which also says my background check is good. I haven't broken any laws because I'm still valid with the license, and I'm totally there to get through. I'm totally there to
Right.
get from point A to point B and make sure that we both get home safe. And then just on a side note, down in the South, when someone sees that you're a firearms instructor or something like that, they tend to lean towards the gun more than they lean towards their own biases or anything. You kind of might meet one or two
The
people that just want to
conflict.
talk to you about what you do,
Exactly.
and that's
And
good because it deflects
that's a
from
big thing,
me
man.
not making
Because
it.
I honestly, um, from my point of view, being stopped, I've been stopped many times. Riding this, how I mean, you're ex Michigander, I think, aren't you from Detroit?
No, never X.
You know what it
Detroit is
is. I
always
know it
home.
is. No matter where you go, Detroit's home.
As you know
Yeah,
how it is,
yeah, but
no matter where you
you
eat,
know,
Detroit is home. It's
but
always the crib. It's
like
always the
if
crib.
anybody knows Detroit, from any, you can't. Well, when we were growing up, you really couldn't be outside in the suburbs in the nighttime. My dad used to tell me, don't get caught in Dearborn during nighttime. Don't, make sure you have your butt across 8 Mile before it get dark. So you know
That's right. That's right.
but I've been stopped many times. They've always asked me, "Do you have a gun in a car?" And I'd be like,
Hmm.
"No, like no, I don't have a gun in a car." So is Michigan one of those states that you have to tell people, and I guess that's part of the lingo or something like that, just to ask or something like that. So I'm guessing that's a part of the lingo or they're questioning to ask you. So I don't know.
Well, most of the time when law
Okay.
enforcement does pull you over, and I mean it's standard, so you can't really get too mad at them for that. But most of the time when they pull you over, they do a
Okay.
traffic stop. They have a certain set of questions that they have to ask you for your safety and for their safety. Um,
Mm-hmm.
do you have a firearm in the vehicle? Depending on how and when it's
Oh,
asked, you
okay.
could probably check the temperature of that officer, but that's not an out of bounds type of question. Normally they don't ask. um but then again, let me not make it seem like utopia on this side of the fence. There are law enforcement officers who will ask you that up front, just to try to see if they can get something to you because they probably stopped you on, uh, I dare not say harassment, but they
Mm-hmm.
probably
Right.
stopped you and wanted to find a find a reason once they got to the window. Um, Either way, Michigan is a
Mm-hmm.
state. You don't have to declare that you have a firearm in the vehicle or that you even have a firearm. If asked by the, you don't necessarily have to declare it, uh, voluntarily. You don't have to tell
You
somebody
have
that you
to
got it, but if they do
get
ask you,
information.
um, you can let them know that you're yeah. Well,
Yeah.
not so much tell them you got it, because you never want to say I got a firearm. You just let them know I'm legally licensed in the state of Michigan to uh,
Okay.
uh, or carry a
CPL.
firearm. That's what your CPL.
Okay.
I'm able to carry this. So you just let them know. And what I mean by the de-escalation part, you just have a conversation with them, calm
Mm-hmm.
conversation. Be direct in what you're saying, but at the same,
Mm.
tonality is everything, and then control your situation. a lot of police officers, and rightfully so, some of them walk into some hairy situations where nerves are on high and things like that. Some of them, but you have to assume that all of them are a bit on edge, just because of the stress of the job itself. And at the end of the day, we want to get home. And we want to get home without anything, without anything in us or without any injuries or anything like that. We want to get home at the end of the day. Believe it or not, that's what most, and I stress most, police officers want to do is just get home. Uh, but you still have to prepare uh, for that
Yeah.
police officer that just feels like, he's having a bad in my bad day. Um, Again, we're always on the defense, and by no means I'm not talking down on police officers, but at the same time, I'm not making it out to where every police officer should be, rose petals on the foot and we put them on a pedestal. No, I know just as police officers, excuse me, police officers who should have
Wow.
never been on the force, as I do police officers that I'm glad that are on the force. So you just have to be prepared. I mean, bottom line, what it comes down to is just first having a knowledge
Hmm.
of language, a command of your own
Wow.
emotions, and being able to deal with the situation before it gets crazy. Um, that kind of segues into if we have to defend ourselves. And I'm going to say that I don't know about anyone else, but
Hmm.
to a situation where I feel like my life is threatened, damn right I'm going to defend myself. I don't care what's behind that shirt that they wearing. It could be a police officer. It could be a bad person with a gun, or let me rephrase that. It could be a police officer with bad intentions, or it could be a bad person with bad intentions. Job at the end of the day is to make sure I get home. Um, but with that, there's that responsibility.
Wow.
I know a lot that I pray I never have to use. But if I have to use it, I'm definitely gonna use it to
Wow.
save my family, to save the innocent
That's deep.
individuals
That's
around me.
deep.
God forbid
Honestly,
I ever
man,
have to
like
show these skills.
I've always had trouble with the NRA, National Rifle Association, because it seems like they've turned themselves into a political organization that has
Hmm.
white supremacist thought processes when they're trying to protect that protect that the Second Amendment. But they're always oddly quiet when something happens to black people. So, like, where do you go as black men in America, or Africans in America, like you say, um, uh, where do you where do you go when you want to be
Hey, Jay Morrison
around?
got me on that too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, so where do you go as a black man to feel that sense of community with other black gun enthusiasts and people that that can we lost okay that have that same mindset as you, that really just want to protect their families, just um really just want to that are
Yeah.
just gun enthusiasts and want to protect their families and want to protect their property and everything like that. So, like, where do you go? Like, because it seems like the biggest organization in the United States, that the NRA, they're for white people. Like that, that's how they position themselves. That's how they position themselves in media, in whatever they're doing. Like NRA TV. I saw a guy that was on Joe Rogan's podcast. That he is a black man. That was on the show, but it was like you ain't no brother. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, they token.
yeah, you know. you know But so I mean, but where do you go? Like, is there like where do you go to feel that sense of community and that sense of belonging that you need during because it's definitely a hobby and not a hobby, but it's definitely a something that you can that you definitely need because I'm definitely looking into it as well. So yeah. So where do you go? So where do you go? And
Right,
you were talking about the
right.
NRA. Okay, and you were talking about the
Yep.
advocacy side of it.
That's right. The advocacy side of the NRA is it. That's the part that attracts people to join the NRA, especially those of us that are familiar and are protective of our Second Amendment rights. The whole belief on the advocacy side is on my side is when you infringe on the Second Amendment right, if you take that right away, you might as well start to look for other rights to give up because that Second Amendment is a protection for all of the other rights that you have. If you don't have the Second Amendment, you don't have the First Amendment with freedom of speech, freedom of press. Definitely, you're gonna end up losing a couple other amendments. I would say the fourth, fifth, and sixth. Like immediately. But that's what the advocacy side does. There's also a second side of the NRA, which is that political wing that follows right wing individuals because Wayne LaPierre, the chairman of the National Rifle Association, he's that type of guy. He wears his politics on his chest and he leads with his politics, and his politics tends to take him in places where there leaves no room, no air for black people. So where do we go? Uh, Outside of the NRA, now don't get me wrong. I'm actually a fan of the NRA. I'm actually a supporter of the NRA in spirit. They didn't get any of my money yet, but I support the NRA for the advocacy that they do.
Okay.
As a black man, I found it really hard to join them, so I started to look around. One brother had a vision down here in Atlanta. His name is Philip Smith. He's a lawyer by trade, but he's also the founder and president of the National African American Gun Association, or NAGA, right? N double A, N double A.
Yeah.
And
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm
nah,
sorry. I'm sorry. This came out, bro. That came out, bro. That came out. I'm sorry. But go ahead. I'm listening. I'm listening.
well, yeah, I mean, that was the first reaction I had, to be totally real
Mm,
with you. I was like, hey, what is this?
mm-hmm.
Right? And it sounds too close to like those red hats. So I wanted
Exactly.
to see what was under the hood, right?
Mm-hmm.
But Philip Smith, he's the president, founder of the National African American Gun Association, and I found a home
Okay.
there. That is the closest that we can get to what the NRA has
Mm,
in a gun rights association and an advocacy association for black folks. Now, let me qualify that. Although it is named the National African American Gun Association, NAGA fights for Second Amendment rights. It's apolitical, doesn't take a side either way on politics, just takes a side on uh, the Second Amendment, what the Second Amendment means to us, what the Second Amendment means, and how it protects us as a black people, and things that we can do as a black community to not only strengthen our awareness and our training on firearms, but also to strengthen our culture around that. Because let's be honest. Let's be honest. Um, I'm down in Georgia now,
mm-hmm.
right? And I can count on one hand how many 6-year-olds down here know how to hunt. Black 6-year-olds know how to hunt. But I would need your hands, D. Warren. I need your hands, and I probably need about 15 other hands to count how many 6-year-olds who are not black in the South have already made their first kill. Learned how to field dress a deer and everything. These are skills that we haven't been, and this goes beyond, everything goes beyond the gun eventually. This goes beyond the firearm where now you're talking about self-sustainment, being able to produce, being able to cultivate your own food sources, things like that. So that's where the disadvantages are. Philip Smith, the president of NAGA, he was a visionary by saying, okay, well, let's start right here, and we can continue on looking at different ways to where we can strengthen our knowledge and strengthen ourselves up as a culture. So he started with the firearms, started with the Second Amendment. As strongly as everyone else that we are entitled our Second Amendment right. And he made a space for Africans in America to actually be able to come together, get knowledge, get training, and fellowship with other African Americans in this community. Because this entire community, this entire culture, the firearms culture, is a journey. It's not something and then you got it, I'm done. No, this is, once you start, it's forever. Because you constantly learn and constantly evolve and constantly teaching. He created a safe space in the National African American Gun Association. Right now, we're pushing just over 40,000 members, and the membership is growing steadily. I would say by the year we'll probably be somewhere around like 80, 85,000 as a projection, which is a good start. Also, where can we go to learn? Where can we go to feel safe? Find your black instructors, find your black trainers, and peel for knowledge. But also, don't be afraid to pay them. I mean, because at the end of the day, they got to put food in their refrigerator just like everybody else. So don't do the our classic. Hey, what's with the hookup? Hey, can I get the deal and all that? No. Pay for it. I promise you, they're going to give you more value than what you're paying for. They're going to give you more information than what you're paying for. And then not only that, but now you have a bond with an individual in the community, and you start to grow with that individual. So you just learn stuff by being in proximity. Outside of that, also, find your local gun clubs, your black-led gun clubs. I know in Michigan, one of the ones that I talk with a lot, the Black Bottom. I talk with Black Bottom a lot. And then I know that New Era has a gun club. I'm not sure if it's still functioning or not, but there are several black gun clubs who are also National African American Gun Association affiliated gun clubs in the city of Detroit. I want to say it's about 4, but I'll double check for you. But that's a good place to start, because then you get into a room with other individuals who are at various different skill levels, various different knowledge levels, but everyone is there to learn and share. They have events, sometimes at the indoor range, sometimes at the outdoor range. They have classes, firing drills, and they just get together and kind of build like a tight-knit family or a tight-knit group that's all centered around a common learning theme, and you end up growing by being in that environment, almost like you are the 5 people that you hang with. Well, if you find yourself in a gun club, then you're going to be everybody in that gun club eventually.
That's what's up, man. Honestly. So, quick question: Do you believe in mandatory background checks?
Mandatory background checks,
Yeah.
not at all, and I'm gonna tell you why.
Okay. Why?
There's so many different things that you give up
Okay.
to get a mandatory background check.
Okay.
Uh, First thing is going to be privacy.
Okay.
But the biggest thing outside of that privacy is you give up your choice if they make that background check mandatory. I believe they have two bills on the floor now that they're trying to mess with. HR1 and the other one is HR 14. Give me a second because I got so many in my head. But I know that there are two bills that are that they're trying to push on us for gun control, where it's not common sense at all. It's an infringement on our rights. It's also an infringement on our privacy. If I decide to go and purchase a firearm, there's already a check in place because of the Personal Protection Act of 1994 and the Brady Bill. Both of those are they comprise the laws that we're currently operating in right now. And what happens if I give up that? I go to a gun store and I get a mandatory background check. That mandatory background check is going to get loaded into a national database, and the national database compiles a list of everyone in the United States who has a firearm. When, for lack of a better word, the mess, or let me be simple, when the mess hits the fan, right, or when the crap hits the fan, who do you think they're gonna send to collect all of those firearms? And how do you think they're gonna find you? They'll find you from the list that they compiled from mandatory background checks. Not only that, but as a firearms owner, if I decide to go and purchase a firearm, or if I decide to go and get a concealed carry permit, or a CCW, be called by different names in different states. Down in Georgia, it's called a weapons carry license. Michigan, you got your CPL, your concealed pistol license. So if I decided to go and get that, I automatically have to do a background check for that, for that license. So I'm already on record. There's no need for anybody to invade my privacy, without my consent. If I go get the license, I'm giving my consent. Hey, this is me. Here's my fingerprint. Give me the license, right? Mm-hmm. And I hate to bring it in, but it's almost like the vaccine. The vaccine is to be made available. It's not to be mandatory. It's to be made available. If you want it, you get it. If you don't, you don't. Why is that? Because your civil liberties protect you from being forced into doing something that goes against your rights. Mandatory background checks goes against your Second Amendment right.
It's crazy. So one of the I would say apprehensions I've always had with having a firearm in my home is because of my children. So how do you safely make sure that your kids don't mess with your gun and mess with your I'm trying to stop using the word gun, obviously, because you told me not to use the word gun anymore. So I'm trying to use the word firearm. How do you safely store and make sure your kids don't mess with your firearm?
Well, for me, the things that I do, two of my three are adults, and we've had this conversation, and both kind of like an oversight on my part. Both will have a weapons carry license by June, just because I've been training them, and my son, he's off in the Navy. And I just got a letter today, shameless plug. I just got a letter today. My son's a sharpshooter in the Navy. So pretty dope. Pretty dope. You
Yeah,
know,
that's dope. That's dope.
pretty
That's dope.
dope.
That's pretty dope. That's pretty dope.
But
Pretty dope.
pretty dope. You know, but I've had that conversation with them. But I also have a 10-year-old at home. The I do is you educate the 10-year-old or you educate your children on the firearm. Don't make it a mysterious item in the house. You know, them first. You know, you follow the four universal safety laws. Make sure that firearm is clear, and things like that. But you educate them on what that firearm is, what that firearm does, and what they're supposed to do if they see one or out on the street. You know, believe it or not, a lot of kids walk up on tossed firearms all the time, and that in itself is a problem. Uh, but you know, you have that. So the first thing I did to protect the firearms here or to safeguard the firearms here in my home is I had that conversation. I sat my 10-year-old down, you know, asked her questions. She asked me questions, but I taught her what that firearm was, what that firearm does, and what she's supposed to do when she sees one. So she's got that down pat. She's not touching the firearm unless dad is on the range with her, helping her fire, right? And teaching her to shoot because dad has taken her to the range several times to teach her how to shoot. The second part of that is, and that even goes with being a concealed carry license holder, you have to safeguard those firearms around the home using some type of safety or retention house. Me personally, I have a safe or a gun box, which is kind of like a safe, but it holds a firearm and a couple of magazines, you know, in there, and that's like my go-to. You know, it's biometric, so it takes my thumbprint to open it. Nobody else's. I also have locks where I also have different long rifles or different rifles and different pistols, such as an AR pistol, I have an AR rifle, AR-15 rifle, I have an AR-10 rifle, and I have a Creedmoor. I have locks. That's just what I'm talking about. That's just what I'm talking about. but I have those, and I have those on locks to where you can't just like grab them and take them out. They shroud the trigger so you can't pull on the trigger, and I definitely don't keep a magazine in most of them. The one for home defense, yeah, he's ready to go. But I don't have it ready one. I've got it in say a second position to where if I needed to use it, then I could make it ready so that I could defend myself. And then also I have a gun safe, and in that safe itself, I have certain firearms in there that the only way you can to know the combination and be strong enough to pull the door. So there's a lot of safeguards in between my 10-year-old daughter touching any of my firearms and being able to hurt herself or hurt somebody else because she was curious. But the biggest safeguard I have is to teach her and talk to her about that thing, so it won't be so mystical, so it won't be so scary. She knows exactly what it is. She knows exactly what it does, and she knows what to do when she sees it. So now I've taken away that curiosity. But even still, with kids in the house, you still have to maintain some type of security. So you always want to get some type of safe or a lock box or whatnot to secure that firearm. You know, to secure that firearm so nobody in the house gets hurt by accident or worse, gets hurt by curiosity.
Wow. Man. D1, you got any questions, big fella?
uh, card carrying NAGA member here. Uh,
My
you on the
man.
show. So, questions I got real quick. Hopefully these can help educate other people. Mainly these questions just are for me, just being selfish right now, having somebody with firearms knowledge in front of me. I'm gonna take advantage just like I always do. So, uh, let
Oh
me
yeah.
ask you this. Uh, and this is different for different states because I know different states got different things going on, right? Especially right now, like it seems like every day laws is changing. But with your opinion,
Right.
conceal or open carry?
I say both, and let me qualify that. When I'm doing yard work, or let's say, for instance, when I do come back to Detroit, because as soon as I get back to Detroit, I'm gonna go see my mama, and she gonna put me to work somewhere,
Mm.
So when I am doing work around there in the neighborhood or whatnot, then I open carry. Um, I open carry because I want to let individuals know that I am protected, and also that I'm willing to protect myself. It's not an intimidation thing or anything like that. It's more or less, hey, if you got bad intentions, leave me alone, right? Uh, Also, when I teach classes open carry for several reasons. One of the biggest reasons is for the safety of my students. Like you have to vet everyone that comes into your class, and just like uh, you'll never get it perfect all the time. When somebody goes to purchase a, found that out with these last two uh, uh, incidences, these last two incidences where individuals were able to go and same day a firearm, which is perfectly legal. But what I say to that is you can't legislate bad people with bad intentions from doing bad things with bad intentions. No matter how many safeguards you put into place. So when I do have people in my class, I'll open carry in the class to once again broadcast that this classroom is protected by a good guy with a gun, but also if something was to happen, God forbid it ever did, I would be the target because I'm visible. And my biggest thing is to protect my class. So if a person, came in there, God forbid, with bad intentions, then those bad intentions would be directed to me. And by open carrying, in effect, I'm saving lives.
Right.
Uh, Anywhere else outside of that, I'm 100% concealed carry. I conceal carry everywhere because I'm licensed to do it. But also, God forbid I ever have to be in that situation with myself or defend others. I'm more I'm more concerned with seconds. I'm more concerned with the drop. 9 out of 10 times, as a defensive minded gun holder and concealed carry advocate, 9 out of 10 times, something's gonna happen. As a defender, we're gonna be the ones that's on the back end. That someone's gonna get the drop on you.
Mm-hmm.
And you're gonna have to put yourself in a position to where you can defend.
Yep.
There are a lot of times where individuals don't have time to even go for their firearm to because they've already been they've already been measured, and that bad individual has the drop on them. So in my opinion, concealed carry in those situations, it can help you because as effective as your concealment is, it can give you time to where you can put yourself in a position to defend,
Mm-hmm.
or you can have those seconds, those few seconds that could mean the difference between defending or dead, that you need coming from a place of concealment versus if you were open. I wouldn't suggest open carry out in public for anyone except the police, unless you're doing things where you want that distance, you want that space. Of letting people know that you are prepared to defend yourself if you have to. But just in practical everyday movements, hey, conceal carry all day. Your life could depend on it.
Okay, I got a question because I'm slow. Open carry and concealed carry. What are the difference?
What
Because
it
I mean,
sound like,
open.
bro? What do it
I mean,
sound like? What do it sound like?
you know I'm slow, man. I don't know nothing about this, man. Jesus Christ, man. I just know.
What do it
I just want to talk
sound
about.
like?
Okay, all right, I get it. I get it. I get it. I
Open,
get it.
conceal. Open, conceal. No, concealed is when you
If
tuck, when you have it in your waistband, shirt over, jacket over, whatever, or some people off in the coat. It's all type of belly bands, all this type of stuff you can do with it. Pretty much to where it's concealed, somebody walking right past you don't know that you got a gun versus open carry, you wild west, got it off the hip, just like, it could be seen as you passing through.
Okay. Yeah, I
Yep.
just want.
like those movies where like the plainclothes police officer walking and he got his gun swinging off his
Okay.
hip, and then the detective come and he pull it from up under his arm or out of his off his
Mm-hmm.
side, from
Yeah.
up under his coat or something
Okay.
like that. That plainclothes is
Okay.
concealed.
I get it. Okay. I get it.
Okay.
I
All
would
right.
just
So let
go
me
ahead.
ask you the next one. Let's just say, give me your advice. Let's just say I'm a new shooter, and I say, I'm a new
Okay.
shooter. I'm not off into the gun culture. I know you know how it go. That stuff get expensive, and with people just coming off into it, it could be a little intimidating, or they just may not have the means. So if I had to choose, if I came to you and I say, Demiso, I got X amount of dollars or whatever, should I spend that primarily towards my gear or should I spend that primarily towards training? Which one would you advise?
Um. Well, your gear don't mean nothing if you don't have the training.
Mm-hmm.
Um. But it's a couple of things to that. I would first, depending on what you had, I would definitely put you in training. Um, get really cool with the firearms instructors, or let them know what you're working with. Most of the time, they'll work with you. At least if they operate like me, I want the information in you more than I want the gun on you.
Right.
So I'll work something out. Um, and definitely invest in your firearm. I hate to say you get what you pay for, and I'm not gonna shame any brand on the show, but there's some fire I wouldn't trust my life behind.
Yeah.
There are also some that I think are excellent firearms that just don't fit. So it would be a process to purchase that firearm. But I would say go with the training first,
Mm-hmm.
because knowledge is always going to be your first line of defense. It's going to be your best defense. And once you have that knowledge, then you can apply that knowledge to the firearm. And then once you're settled in that firearm, then you can apply arm to how you train, and how you train tells you what gear to get.
Okay. Yeah.
If that makes
That
sense.
make a lot of sense. I say that because I done seen cats where I'm looking in the next stall and he got the flashlight, the beam, the hollow sun sight, he got the whole setup. You know what I'm saying? And,
The stormtrooper
yeah, he got the whole kit. You know, and you look over at his target, and
uh-huh.
he only shooting 5-7 yards away, and you looking over at his target, and it look crazy, like it's shots everywhere. So but you may see somebody with just simple little Taurus, no sight, no whatever, and they know what they doing. But like you said, it is important to have that training, to have that knowledge, because if you don't, you can have all the gear, and it ain't gonna do you no good, especially in a real life scenario situation. So that's what's up.
That's right. Like one of my main things in the class is I let everybody know you don't want to look you don't want to look fresh dead. You know you
Mhm.
you have a lot of you got a lot of unnecessary stuff, or not even unnecessary stuff. You got stuff on your firearm that you know that you're supposed to have. Somebody probably told you that you need it, but you don't know what you're doing with
Hmm.
it. It's a hindrance. Case in point, when I got my first AR, I didn't have anything on it but iron sights. I made sure I put on backup iron sights, and I used the iron sights, right? And once I got solid sights, I folded those down and I put my Hollow Sun on there. Which it was funny that you said Hollow Sun because that was my first one. So I, I put the Hollow Sun on there, and I went ahead and I worked out with that. And then once I worked out with that, and I got a feel of that weapon. Once I got a feel, then I went ahead and I changed my brace, and I shortened my barrel a little bit. I started
Right.
tweaking it to where I needed to be. To where now the only thing that's really on there. I mean, I put a flashlight on there reluctantly, but it's the home defense. So yeah, you put the flashlight on there. But the only other thing that I had on there, I mean, that I put on there outside of the flashlight was a 3-point sling. And I only put the 3-point sling on there because I was thinking about going out and demonstrating
Right.
one day. I never did it, but I got a cool ass sling, you know. So, but no, I invest in your gear, definitely invest in your gear, but know why you need that gear, and don't get more than what you need, because a lot of when it comes down to it, in the heat of the moment, it's going to be a point target. It's not going to be okay. Well, I'm using all of this gear to get the best shot, and I got time to breathe and stuff like that. No, it's going to be reaction, point, point shooting to the
Hmm.
target. It's stuff. It look cool. I mean, the stormtrooper gun. It looked cool, but if it's got no practical use, I I wouldn't invest in it unless I needed it. Pretty
Yeah, that's
much.
where I'm at right now. I just got to the point where I'm comfortable with my irons because that's all I had got on my AR. It's just some straight iron sight, and I
Hmm.
just waited till I kept getting further and further back, pushing the target further and further back, dialing it in. It's like, okay, now I throw a red dot on there now. So, um, next
There you go.
question, last question, I'm gonna give you. For somebody who's a new shooter, they trying to go, you trying to think about a effective range for defensive training. What would you say would be a average range, a effective range? Because cats want to send it all the way back, trying to show out, or you got people who they got the target 3 feet in front of them and they just tearing the paper up. What would be a good effective range to start out with to train?
Um, new
Yeah.
shooter. For a new shooter, I start them out at about maybe, like honestly, about maybe 5 meters,
Uh huh.
and I will work on it. The reason why I start out at 5 meters is because I want to build up a little bit of confidence, but I want to work on their fundamentals. Fundamentals. I need to see how their isosceles stance is. I need to see how their non-firing hand is on the grip. I actually need to see how they grip. Their muzzle awareness, their muzzle control. I need to see all of that, right? So I give them about maybe 5 meters, and I let them. Well, first, new shooter. I'm only gonna go one round at a time.
Hmm.
That's for everybody's safety. I know y'all could probably log in on Instagram and see somebody shooting, and they just shooting. They just shooting. The gun running away from them. They just shooting. It's just yah 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 yah. Then all of a sudden, you got a guy like me that's about to try to tackle him because maybe they stuff is moving over into my lane, or stuff like that. So the first things, I give them 1 round, and I give them about 5 meters, let them punch at it a couple of times, 1 round at a time. And as their confidence grows and their fundamentals get stronger, I'll push it out a little bit more. All right. And what I would do, I would start out first from like 5 meters, let them punch at the target one at a time. That way it build up the confidence and I could check their fundamentals. And then I'd go ahead and I'd push the target out maybe 5 more meters, somewhere between 3 and 5 more meters each time, check their fundamentals and things like that. Just getting them, keeping them in target angle. I don't shoot for anything. Normally shoot the triangle. Train how you and I push out initially for a new shooter would be about I'd say maybe about 30 meters. 25 meters, I'd normally push out about 30. If I'm training an individual who's got a little bit more skill, got a little bit more training under their belt, or they're pushing for, then I use the instructor course, or I use the instructor qualification table, where we start out at about meters and we push all the way out to about.
Okay. You done with the answer? Oh, okay. Oh, okay. All right. All right. I was like, okay, like, did he
Yeah,
freeze? Like,
I'm done.
but yeah. But yeah, man. This is a great conversation, man. Definitely a great conversation, man. I'm definitely glad we had you on tonight, man. Definitely giving our listeners some, some valued information. And so yeah, just give them your information, man. Let them know how they can find you, on social media, whatever.
All right. Again, Defense Group LLC. I'm nationwide. I'm based in Columbus, Georgia. Anywhere that me to train, 9 out of 10 times I'm gonna end up there. You can find me on Facebook. It'll be Rampart DTG, or I'm sorry, Rampart TDG. On Facebook, you can find me, or just search Rampart Tactical. Rampart Tactical on Twitter, and Rampart Tactical on Instagram. Or you can go to .com, plug right into my classes. If you don't classes there, or you want to bring me out to the city, wherever you may be, to bring me out to your city, there is a where you can request me to start a class in your area. We could sit down, we work the time out. Like I said, if there's ever a need, for me to come out and train, I'm trying to train 10 million individuals in the next 5 years to properly and legally defend themselves, get the education,
That's what's up, man. Well,
get
we
lethal,
we
and
as
stay
as
legal.
always, man. We just thank you for coming out, man. Having time to sit down and talk with us, man. So that's it for our podcast for tonight, man. Thank you, man. Thank you again to Demiso from Rampart Tactical, man. Make sure you go follow him and see what's up. What he had to say, man. So, all right. So we out of here. Peace.